Sometimes geography becomes the trap that history refuses to forgive. Poland was once one of the largest powers in Europe. Its lands stretched across the heart of the European continent. But by 1795, Poland had vanished from the political map. Not for 1 year, but for generation after its borders disappeared. It was not erased by one battle or one king. It disappeared because geography turned national survival into a trap. Poland stood between three empires rising at the same time. Russia pressed from the east, carrying expanding imperial ambition westward. Prussia pushed from the west, hungry to connect scattered lands. Austria watched from the south, unwilling to be left behind. Together, they saw Poland as land, leverage, and open opportunity. So how did Poland vanish for 123 years? A large country can still become too slow to survive. Poland did not begin as a small, helpless state awaiting rescue. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth once dominated much of Eastern Europe's political landscape. But a huge map does not guarantee a strong state. Inside Poland, noble power often weakened the central government severely. Decisions moved slowly, while neighboring empires moved faster and more decisively. They built armies, collected taxes, and centralized power with speed. Polish leaders saw the danger, but almost too late already. In 1791, Poland tried to reform itself through a modern constitution. But reform made nearby Russia and Prussia even more afraid. A stronger Poland could soon stand up again before them. One enemy is a crisis. Three enemies become a system. If Poland had faced one empire, negotiation or resistance might have worked, at least for a while. It could have focused its armies and played one rival against another for survival in a crisis. But Poland had no such luxury because every powerful neighbor wanted it weak, dependent, and politically divided. Russia wanted influence deeper into Europe, beyond its western frontier. Prussia wanted connected territory to become a real continental power. Austria refused to watch both rivals profit, while it received nothing from Poland's fall in return. This was the real danger. Three interests could cooperate against one weakened state when convenient for them. Stronger powers divide a country together. Destruction becomes almost administrative, slowly spreading across the map. If you want more stories about nations trapped between empires, subscribe to Between Empires before we continue. The map did not break at once. It was cut piece by piece. In 1772, the first partition took large pieces of Polish territory in plain sight from the Commonwealth. Russia, Prussia, and Austria tested how far Europe would let them go without punishment or intervention. The reaction was too weak, and that silence became dangerous for Poland's political survival in Europe. It proved Poland could be divided without breaking the European system or starting a wider war. In 1793, the second partition cut deeper, leaving Poland barely able to act as a state. Poland had less land, less power, and almost no room for independent decisions of its own. Still, the Polish people resisted through the Kościuszko uprising of 1794 against desperate odds in the streets. It was a desperate attempt to rescue what remained of the homeland before the final partition. But when the uprising failed, the empires wanted Poland gone as a state from Europe entirely. In 1795, the third partition erased Poland's remaining independent state as a political actor in Europe. Poland disappeared from Europe's political map for more than a century, and generations lived without it. A country can disappear on paper and survive inside people. From 1795 onward, Poland no longer had an independent government of its own, or recognized capital. Millions of Polish people still lived on that land, but under foreign imperial rule every day. Some lived under Russia, some under Prussia, and some under Austria, with different pressures around them. On the map, Poland was dead, but in real life, it survived quietly through identity and memory. It survived in language, families, churches, hidden schools, poems, and songs passed from generation to generation. It survived in memories of a country that had been taken away, but never forgotten completely. Each generation inherited the same question. Was Poland truly gone forever, or only waiting to return? Some answered through uprisings, including November 1830 and January 1863, against imperial rule and political repression. Others answered through exile, books, politics, culture, and national memory, keeping Poland alive beyond borders abroad. The empires could redraw maps, but they could not erase identity from millions of people completely. Poland returned when the walls around it finally cracked. Poland did not return because the partitioning empires suddenly became kind or guilty about history overnight. It returned because the world that trapped Poland began to collapse under the pressure of war. World War I turned Europe into a battlefield where exhausted empires fought far beyond their limits. Russia fell into revolution, Germany lost, and Austria-Hungary broke apart after years of pressure and exhaustion. For the first time, all three walls cracked at once around Poland's divided lands in Europe. But Polish leaders did not simply wait for freedom to arrive from the collapsing powers nearby. They organized forces, built institutions, negotiated, and fought for recognition from the outside world around them. They used every opening created by the collapse around them to rebuild a Polish state again. In 1918, Poland returned as an independent country after 123 years without full statehood. A name erased for 123 years appeared back on Europe's map as a living nation again. The lesson is simple. Maps can lie about memory. Poland's story is not only about invasion, defeat, or stronger neighbors pressing against its borders repeatedly. It is about geography, timing, weak institutions, and imperial calculation working together at the worst moment. Poland disappeared because it stood where too many powers wanted advantage from its weakness and territory. But Poland returned because identity can outlive the empires dividing it across maps and generations alike. Russia, Prussia, and Austria could divide land, but not Polish memory into three permanent pieces forever. That is why Poland vanished from maps, but not from history or from its people's imagination. A country truly dies only when its people stop believing it exists somewhere beyond the borders. And for 123 years, Poland never stopped believing it would return to the map.